All right. All right. We're live.
There it is.
We're live. I'm Pat. I'm here with Matt Kory. You might know Matt from Twitter, where he has a bag over his face as part of his picture. He's here without a bag over his face tonight. Matt is joining us to talk about the Boston Red Sox. He has a Red Sox newsletter called Sox Outsider, which you can sign up for by going to the description section of this video, click on the link, and give him your email so he can send you all his thoughts on the Red Sox. Matt has written for The Athletic, Fangraphs, Baseball Perspectives, every baseball site you've heard of. Matt has written for, and now he's writing for his own thing, which you should subscribe to. And yeah, so Matt, thanks for being here. How's it going?
Doing good, man. Yeah, it's dark here. It's cool. Everything's good.
It's dark here too, even though I'm 3 hours further into darkness than you. But
yeah, you are. There's still a little bit of sunlight out there, like a real little bit. I was just outside. It's like ridiculously cold, which is kind of unusual I'm in Portland, Oregon, and so it's usually in the 40s, not 30s in the wintertime. So when I feel those 30-degree temperatures, I'm like, whoa, this is like East Coast weather.
Yeah, we have a cold stretch too. We're in a cold stretch too, so I know that feeling. Cool. So I figured to start, for me, like I follow baseball, right? But the Red Sox aren't like my team.
No, I can tell by your sweatshirt.
Yeah.
There it is.
I also have an Orioles pint glass. I had a protest for doing the first real baseball. I guess that's one thing we should tell people who are, who might be watching this live or watch it on replay, is that we are talking about real baseball tonight, not out of the park baseball.
Yeah, this is not a computer simulation. This is it's a computer. It's two people talking over a computer about actual baseball.
Right. Yeah. Life itself we might be inside a computer simulation, but tonight we're talking about what we know to be real Major League Baseball, the real Boston Red Sox.
Yes. Yes.
And so, and I figured I think probably people who follow my channel, I'm sure some are Red Sox fans, but I'm sure many like me are just baseball fans who kind of know what's going on in the Red Sox, but not as well as you. So, my understanding of them, and you actually wrote an article a couple weeks ago that kind of confirmed this, or maybe a week ago or so, before their recent activity, that they were just in an incredibly frustrating phase where, they traded away like one of the best players in the game a year ago, Mookie Betts.
Yeah.
And they still had like a lot of core pieces that you could build a good team around, but they weren't doing anything. So they've given us different things to talk about tonight in the fact they've actually done things the last couple of weeks. I guess when I look at this team, I see guys like Bogarts and Devers and Verdugo and maybe Benintendi and maybe JD Martinez still, like guys you can build around. I think it's a really good team. And while I wish every Major League team other than like the Padres would try to win more than they are trying to win, relative to the majors, it seems like the Red Sox are at least maybe recognize that they have a core they should try to put some pieces around. And that's where I see them right now, given their action last week. How accurate is that?
I think it's pretty accurate. I also would like to see the Padres try to win more than they're trying to win now. I'd like to see what that looks like.
Oh, I would love it too, but I just appreciate that they're trying to win though.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, you're totally right. You're totally right. I was just thinking like, what if the Padres really did try more? Like, we'll trade you our actual baseball field for Mike Trout. Will you do that? Come on.
He's playing in the parking lot. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Or just on the road all the time. Whatever. We got Mike Trout. Who cares? I think that's accurate. The Red Sox are a team with, a reasonable amount of talent. They, like you pointed out, a bunch of the guys they had. I mean, last year's such a weird year. So it's so hard to like people are saying Andrew Benintendi is bad now and we should get rid of him. He played 14 games last year. He was terrible in those 14 games, but it was 14 games. And then he got hurt and he missed the rest of the year, which was 35 other games or something. So just bizarre. Like, and I don't want to say I'm putting zero stock in 2020, but I'm trying to weigh it like a lot less,
Sure.
Just all the weirdness that we went through as non-baseball players, what they must have gone through. So, JD Martinez also was bad last year, but again, whatever. He played most of the year, but he didn't play well, and he's also older, so it's like a little easier to go, okay, maybe he's, on the downside a little bit, but I don't think there's really any reason to think that he's not going to be a good hitter. So you've got all these different guys, especially on offense, who who can really help the team win. And it just seemed like there was a couple spots that you didn't have to be super smart to figure out, oh, this team needs a second baseman. Oh, this team needs a center fielder. This team needs like 4 starters. And it's not really 4. It's more like 2. They really needed 2.
Right.
And in this market and with the Red Sox financial abilities, you would think that would be a pretty easy thing to pull off.
Right.
And they weren't seemingly doing anything. And all these guys are coming off the board, and you're sitting there going like, I feel like this team, it's got some skills. They just need a little bit of help. Like, can someone in Boston please help this team just a little bit? So, and then they did some stuff, which we can talk about if you want, but that was kind of heartening to see them actually make some moves.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was your article before they made the moves, with your frustration of them not making moves, kind of like confirmed with where I thought the Red Sox kind of were at with why aren't they doing something? Because I feel like if you have Devers and you have Bogarts, like neither of them are superstars, but as they're probably both like 4+ win players, right? In a full season if they're healthy, and like that's
hopefully more than that. I mean, Devers is I think 12. I think he's 12. He might be 13. But he's very young and
12 what? What do you mean?
Years old. That was a joke.
I thought you meant wins.
No. Sorry. Yeah. No, I'm just saying he's super young and he's. I think there's more to come with him. Yeah. Bogart's 4 to 6 wins, somewhere in there, right? Yeah.
If he hit his upside, he could be a 6-win player.
Yeah. Benintendi should be a reasonable left fielder. Verdugo is kind of the same thing, I think, in right. I feel like people are overrating Verdugo as much as people are underrating Benintendi.
Right.
For the same reason, like 2020, this tiny little blip, and Verdugo was really good in 2020. So yeah, sign Jackie Bradley, and I don't know, bring in another relief. Actually, they did bring in another relief pitcher yesterday. They 2 days ago in a really weird deal. I wrote 2 articles about that just because it was so weird.
Yeah. So let's get into some of those moves they made. Start with they basically got a prospect from the Yankees for taking Adam Ottavino.
Yeah.
From the Yankees, which, one, it was strange that the Yankees and Red Sox made a trade.
Right.
And 2, it was strange that the Yankees basically like, here, take this useful reliever to end this prospect to get us under the luxury tax threshold.
Well, it was even weirder than that. Yeah, it was even weirder than that because they were already under it.
Yeah. I'm assuming they want to do more things. I'm assuming that's,
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, like, they signed Darren O'Day today. Yankees did, and I think he got like $1.5 million. I mean, it was on very little money, relatively speaking. And I think, they probably want to bring back Brett Gardner on a, Brett Gardner's coming back on a series of progressively cheaper 1-year deals for all time, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be 55 and he's going to be making $17 for the year. But so that was a particularly strange trade because, I mean, Ottavino, and another guy who had sort of an off 2020 despite pretty good peripherals. I think he had a 5 ERA or something like that, but still a ton of strikeouts. He threw 14 innings or something. It was not very much. And he's a little older. He's got 1 year left on his deal, I think at $9 million. And the Yankees are paying like $850,000 of that. Okay. And they're like, hey, how about if we give you Adam Ottavino for a year and also this prospect? Actually, it was funny. I was trying to explain this deal to my 12-year-old, and he's like, "Well, what did the Red Sox give up?" And I was like, So it really struck me as one of those deals that you would do in Out of the Park.
Right.
Where it's like so much more money based, it feels like. But yeah, so anyway, Ottavino fits in really well in Boston's bullpen. And this prospect seems like kind of a fringy prospect, but I don't know.
They basically, took on Ottavino's salary in order to get a fringy prospect. Sounds good.
Yeah, wow. Totally. Yeah, and
as
long as he can help you. Actually, one thing I'm gonna be writing about tonight is the Orioles kind of doing that same thing, which, by the way, they have not indicated they're going to do. I just think it would be a good idea for them to do it. Anyway, so that's a good move. They also signed Enrique Hernandez, presumably to play some second base.
And he's an interesting player. I mean, I think it works out well because the fact that like he can play so many different places.
Right.
So if and when Jeter Downs is ready, he becomes a utility guy.
Right.
And kind of what's the timeline on Jeter Downs as you understand? Is there any possibility they see him like up playing second base for them this year, you think?
I think it's possible towards the end of the year.
Okay.
He was in the alternate site, I think, last year. So, I'm sure the team has some idea about, when, what his skill level is and when he'll be able to come up. But it's real hard to know, unless you're employed by the Red Sox, what that timeline is.
Sure.
Just based on his age and what he's done in the minor leagues, I would guess that if he hits well, in AAA, because he's definitely starting in AAA for two reasons. One, he's probably just ready for it, but also AAA is going to actually start on time apparently, whereas the other minor leagues are going to be a little more delayed just because of COVID.
Right.
So it doesn't really make sense to have him like wait, to play in AA. He's already old enough and skilled enough, so send him to AAA. So yeah, I would imagine he'll be in AAA, and if he's killing it in AAA after a couple months, maybe.
Sure. So they brought in Ottavino, they brought in Hernandez to play second base from the Dodgers, and then the most interesting move to me was bringing in Garrett Richards into the rotation.
Right.
A guy who, when he's healthy, is a really good pitcher.
Yeah.
To me, the main question with him seems to be how many innings are you going to get from him? Because they're probably going to be good innings, but how many innings are you going to get?
Right. Yeah. And that's a toughie. That's another toughie. He's clearly a skilled guy. One thing the Red Sox have going for them and why I think Richards fits particularly well. So did Kory Kluber for the same reason, is that sometime in the middle of the year, presumably Chris Sale will be back.
Right.
And so you can kind of take a chance on a guy who's healthy now, but who has injury problems, because if he does get hurt, you've got Sale coming back. Hopefully, you've got a little bit of redundancy, a little bit, of I don't know, whatever depth to make that work better than if you're counting on him to throw 200 innings or something like that. But yeah, he's a really, it's funny. I hadn't really known that much about him until I started researching him for, after the Red Sox signed him. And he's got like a crazy spin rate on his fastball. And
his curveball too. I think they're both like 90th plus percentile in spin.
Slider? Is it his slider? I
think it's his. I believe it's his fastball and his curveball, or the that crazy spin on it. I don't have Baseball Savant open, but I can.
Yeah,
check.
I don't either. I want to go back and look though. I'm really curious.
One thing that was interesting.
No, you're right. Fastball, curveball. Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
And he's mainly he's a two pitch guy pretty much, isn't he?
I think he's got a changeup also.
But like, doesn't he not throw it too often? I believe
yeah, I think it's a third pitch by a good bit.
Yeah, I was listening today to it looks like he threw his four-seamer like 48-ish% of the time, 46. Yeah. Slider was 37. Oh, slider was 37% of the time last year. And the curveball was all the way down at 7%. So yeah, he should be using that curveball more often, it seems. Although
I wonder if there's a classification error going on there.
Yeah, he didn't throw it for strikes very often last year, though. Maybe that was part of the issue, or maybe it was part of coming back from the injuries that he's been coming back from. But
yeah, I don't know.
I was listening to I don't know if you ever listened to the podcast Rates and Barrels. It's
actually going to be talking to Enos Saris for the first edition of the Sox Outsider podcast later this week. That's my hope.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Enos like if there was a draft board of sports writers, he'd be probably in my 1-1 spot.
He's pretty good.
Yeah. Enos Saris is great, and Rates and Barrels is a great podcast. And he was basically saying that he thinks Richards would be effective in basically what the Rays do with Glass now, of like just go out for 4 or 5 innings every start and be one of the best pitchers in the league for that small kind of crunch of innings. With he relies primarily on 2 pitches. He's got the health issues, etc. So yeah, do you think kind of, and we'll get into their bullpen a bit, but do you think they're looking, and I know baseball is kind of moving more and more towards, give us 4 or 5 good innings, but Do you think they will look at him as that kind of guy, or are they looking to be like a horse?
Well, it's interesting because 2 of the bullpen pickups that they made during the offseason are guys who have some history in a rotation. I say a rotation, not the rotation, because one of them is Garrett Whitlock, who's a Rule 5 guy from the Yankees organization.
Yep.
But he's been a starting pitcher most of his career. The other guy is Matt Andriese, who occasional starter with the Angels. So I think both those guys, you could kind of piggyback it. You could get some more innings by using those guys. But yeah, I would expect that this year. I mean, last year, I don't want to say they were tanking, but they want to try to put the best team on the field. Cough, Mookie, cough. So this year, I think they're going to pull out some more stops and try to get more out of the rotation, because that was like a huge problem last year. I mean, they had Mike Kickham starting multiple games for them. Yeah, it was pretty rough. And
I would say, I mean, while there isn't not many teams have a Mookie level superstar, and they don't have a superstar in this lineup, like you're saying, but the question marks, I think, are on the pitching side of things. I think their lineup is if they get decent pitching, the lineup is good enough to make them a playoff team.
It should be, right? If they get reasonable, steps forward from some of those guys that we were talking about before, Devers, Devers and Martinez, and Benintendi all had down years in 2020 for various reasons. I think if you get out of them what you would reasonably expect to get out of them in a full season, I think that lineup looks pretty good. The one issue to me right now is, I don't want to say they don't have a center fielder, because Verdugo can play center.
Yeah.
But I think they're a much better team if they have Jackie in center, Verdugo in right, and then that bumps Renfroe to sort of a platoon backup outfielder role that he's a little more suited to, rather than an everyday starter. But that's kind of a minor complaint, other than that. Oh, and they've got Bobby Dahlbeck, who's a rookie, starting at first base. They have been talking about bringing back Mitch Moreland, so that may be turned into a platoon situation. But that's the other kind of question mark spot in the lineup. But it's not bad. Like, none of those players really project to be bad, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, they have I think they have the two rocks in Devers and Bogarts. They don't have any real black holes. And then, the kind of next tier of like guys, if you're not sure which way they'll go next year, the Verdugo, Benintendi, Martinez tier. Now, their outfield right now, if they don't bring in Jackie Bradley or center fielder from left to right, would be what? Benintendi, Verdugo, Renfroe? Is that?
Yeah. I think that would be it. And I feel like that could be okay.
It looks a lot better if you have a Gold Glove center fielder and then Renfroe as your fourth outfielder.
Yeah, it really does. I think they're definitely waiting to see what the what the market for Bradley is.
Sure.
But we'll. When you lay it out like that, I was just thinking. I have questions about the Red Sox defensive play in the infield, and just a couple years ago, the Red Sox were running a Benintendi, Bradley, and Betts outfield out there.
Yeah.
So this could have gone south really fast, defensively. I mean, this could be a pretty bad defensive team now that I think about it.
Yeah, I guess that's a good way to segue to one of the guys we've mentioned a few times. I haven't talked about too much is Raphael Devers. That he hits the complete crap out of the ball.
Yeah, he's a ton of fun. Yeah.
Like you said, 2020 is hard to gauge, kind of easier. We shouldn't ignore it, but 2019 was just a complete monster year from him. But I guess the biggest question for him is like, dude, can he play third base? Like, can you stick him there for a full season? Long term?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because Dahlbeck, the guy who's at first, has played a lot of third base, and he's apparently, I've never seen him play. He's been in the minors. Other than, he was up at the end of last season, but only playing first base.
Right.
I've never seen him play third, but apparently he's played a lot of third base, and he's got a gun, so he can supposedly handle the position. So. I don't know. Maybe at a certain point, if he proves he can hit, maybe you just, switch him over. That hurts Devers' value, but it improves Dahlbeck's value. It's like a kind of a closed circuit, so who cares? As far as can Devers play third, it's sort of weird because he has the kind of mistakes and stuff that he makes are the kind of things that you would make if you didn't have a lot of experience. Like you've probably seen a lot of it actually, as the Orioles bring up young guys. That it's just like a level of youthful mistakes that you make where you sort of like lack situational awareness in the field, or you just make bad throws because you didn't set your feet like you should or whatever.
Sure.
And he does a lot of his mistakes are like that. But he's actually really good at coming in on balls. He's got a pretty good throwing arm. So, physically, I think it's not an issue. He's just got to grow up in the position a little bit. Sure.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. Yeah. And now Dahlbeck is like a kind of a fringe top 100 type prospect. I think he was actually rated 100 on MLB.com's.
Was he? I don't know.
Top 100. Do you think they see him as like kind of like a potential core piece, or what do you think they are hoping for him out of? Not a core piece this year, but kind of long term. Do you think he's a guy they hope become a core piece, or just kind of like a guy?
I don't know how they see him. The fact that they're willing to basically hand him first base.
Yeah.
That's a good sign, right? That said, they have, like, I think their best prospect is, oh my gosh, I just totally blanked on his name.
Jeter Downs?
No. Tristan Casas.
Oh,
what?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm surprised you would rate him ahead of Downs.
But
You're the expert.
I think those are their two
those are the top two.
Yeah. So I'm probably not the best person to have that particular disagreement with. I think from what I know and what I've read, and again, I've never seen Cassis play other than like some clips. But from what I know and what I read is that, the bat could be special. It sounds like he could be a much better hitter than Downs. Downs plays second base and potentially plays it well. And that's something that Cassis can't offer. So, you kind of got to weigh how you, where that value is coming from. I think it's a lot easier to find someone who can play first base than it is to play second, something the Red Sox have managed to show us over the last several years.
Right.
But
a couple people saying hi here. We got Drew saying hello.
Oh, hey, Drew.
We got Juan saying hey.
Hi, Juan.
Drew sporting one of the best logos in baseball as his picture there.
When did you figure out that the Milwaukee Brewers logo has an M and a B in it? Because for me, it was embarrassingly recently.
Oh, within the last year or two.
Okay, mine isn't that recent.
Yeah. It might, if it's longer than that, it's not much longer than that. Within the last few years. 2
or 3 years. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, recently.
Yeah. It's like, why is this lame logo like a baseball glove?
It's such a good logo. I just thought it was a baseball glove. It's an M and a B, made to look like a glove.
It's almost too good.
It's so good. I think my interest in the Brewers went up about tenfold when I found that out.
Though, in fairness, how interested in the Brewers were you previously?
Well, I mean, I've had Yelich on my fantasy team since he was a Marlin, so
all right,
more interested than the average baseball fan, I think.
Okay, fair enough.
And so one other thing I wanted to ask you about is like the bullpen, because it seems to me they have they brought in those two guys you said you could kind of be, piggyback guys, but it seems to me they have 2 or 3 arms in the back end and then just like a bunch of dudes. Is my reading there wrong, or am I underestimating the rest of the staff after Barnes, Ottavino, and how do you say Ryan Brazier or
Brazier?
Brazier,
yeah.
Do they have much in that bullpen after those 3?
No, I mean, the big arm in that bullpen, other than the guys you mentioned, is Darwin Hernandez.
Okay.
He's 24.
Yeah.
Strikes everybody out, throws really hard. He's a lefty. He's a really interesting guy. With predictable warts in his game,
Sure.
Occasionally has trouble throwing strikes, walks a lot of guys. But he's sort of the potential prototypical modern day reliever, just blow everybody away. And if you happen to walk the bases loaded in the process, oh well. So yeah, he's a guy that I would pay attention to. I mean, he has also minor league options remaining, and so who knows what this front office is going to do in terms of cycling through guys, and he's so the fact that he has those options remaining, he could end up in AAA just because of that. But he's a guy I'm excited to watch pitch some more.
Yeah, there's another thing. It was funny. I listened to this Rates and Barrels episode today where they talked about the recent Red Sox moves.
Oh, okay. I'll have to listen to that. I haven't heard it yet.
The one thing that, I think it just came out yesterday or today. The one thing that I think it was Eno was making the point is that both Barnes and Ottavino are guys who are probably, one of the two is probably slotted for the 9th inning role.
Yeah.
Insofar as much as the Red Sox are going to adhere to that type of role. And he brought up the possible speed bump of, not that the 9th inning is like a tougher inning to pitch, but that swing rates are lower in the 9th inning than most other innings. And this was the thing. I didn't know this. I didn't know that. And basically that his concern is that Barnes and Ottavino
don't throw strikes.
Right. Don't throw strikes. So it's just going to exaggerate the problem of their control. And because of that, they might not have a guy cut out for the 9th inning.
Allow me to posit a theory. So
all right, let's hear it.
why might that be? Why might it be that people don't swing as much in the ninth inning?
I would say it's kind of like, when you have an exam, like you're trying a lot harder than you did during the semester, right?
I don't think that's it. I mean,
okay.
you could totally be right. And what the hell? I don't know. My guess is that the quality of pitchers in the ninth inning are greater than in the other innings overall.
So, and why would a quality pitcher cause somebody to swing less, you think?
Well, I guess the theory would be if you're throwing really good pitches, sometimes guys aren't going to be able to hit them, or just not be able to, I don't know, knee buckling curveball,
Right.
Sneak the fastball by you, just whatever the pitch is just too good to hit more. I'm assuming that this is, on a percentage basis, not gigantic, not a huge difference.
Right.
I mean, maybe it is the batter. I just kind of, in my head, when you said that, I wonder if that's the pitchers as opposed to the hitters.
Yeah, you should. When you talked to Eno this week, talking about it, he didn't expand on it too much, but he brought that up as kind of like a side point. So
yeah, that's interesting because I actually did notice that, and I was going to write something about the fact that I think both Ottavino and Barnes throw strikes at about 45%.
Yeah,
which works for them. But
could be some adventurous ninth innings.
Yeah, and those are always lots of fun.
Yeah. And now what about Houck? Is it Tanner Houck? Is that
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Will he be in the bullpen this year, or where's he gonna be?
No, I don't think so. He should be in AAA, it'd be my guess. Okay. And if they have injuries, they'll probably, depending on how he pitches in AAA, they'll probably call him up. I mean, he threw I think it was 2 or 3 starts. It might have been 3 for him. So at the end of the year, the Red Sox were in position to get potentially the first overall pick, but likely the second. And they called up Nick Pavetta and Tanner Houck and put them in the rotation. And both of them were awesome, and they won a bunch of games and then fell to the 4th overall pick.
They screwed the plan. Yeah,
they really did. You would think putting Nick Pavetta in the rotation would be fail-safe. You're definitely going to move up in that draft order, but no. But one of them had 3 starts and the other had 2, and I always mix it up in my head. But Houck, I think Houck had 3, and one of them, I think he faced the Rays. Yeah, he looked really good, and it was weird because we were sort of getting reports on. So like his problem is that he has 2 pitches, and he really comes from the side. He's a righty,
sure.
So he's really susceptible to lefties. He doesn't throw a changeup, or historically hasn't. He's like a fastball slider guy. So kind of a good bullpen profile. But they want to start him. He's been a starter most of the time.
Right.
And so they're trying to teach him this third pitch. And so he's working in the alternate site, and they're like, all right, we're going to send him to the majors. Like, all right, here comes that third pitch, man. Here it comes. Nope. It was fastball slider. And it worked like really well for those 3 starts. So my guess is that in AAA, he's going to be working on that third pitch still. If they can get him to throw a change or something to be able to get lefties out, something that isn't coming over the edge and down the hill towards a lefty. But yeah, so my guess is that'll be his role. His role will be learn third pitch, come up and help the major league rotation at some point when Garrett Richards and Nate Eovaldi and Eduardo Rodriguez all get hurt.
Yeah, there's some. I guess we kind of brushed over the fact that there's some serious health concerns in the rotation. Like, I mean, basically your top 3 starters. Well, your top starter's out for like half the year, Chris Sale.
Right.
And then your next 3 dudes all have pretty spotty. Well, I guess Rodriguez, it's not fair to call his injury history spotty, but Eovaldi, Richards, both injury concerns. And then Rodriguez, other than his COVID complications, I think, been pretty healthy, right?
Yeah, he's not had real problems with health. And to my knowledge, Martin Perez, relatively healthy also. So it's mostly the fact that, Nathan Eovaldi gets hurt once a year roughly. And Garrett Richards is Garrett Richards. And so there you have it. But one thing that this team, this future 2021 Red Sox team has, and you can tell the front office has been working really hard on it, is some starting pitching depth, which they did not have last year. It was brutal. So, they had, I guess, depth in a technical sense. They had people who stood on the mound and threw baseballs for them. It's just not, not very good.
They had pitchers who had major league contracts.
They did. Yeah. At the time that they were pitching, they had major league contracts. Yeah.
And so that depth, Pavetta is going to be the fifth starter, and he's an interesting guy to me. But then Whitlock and Andres, you mentioned, would those be kind of your sixth and seventh guys when injuries hit?
Yeah, my guess is that those are more short-term rotational options. Yeah. And, hopefully, if there's a long-term injury, then you can call on a guy like Tanner Houck, or maybe later in the year, Connor Siebold, who they got from the Phillies last year for Brandon Workman, along with Nick Pavetta. And the other guy is Brian Mata, who's probably their best starting pitching prospect. Oh yeah, Brandon Workman. Yeah. So I'm kind of wondering if they will bring him back. He had a bit of a tough time in Philadelphia. It did not work out well. Did he give up a grand slam in his very first outing there, or like two back-to-back homers to lose the game? It was something like I'm here. It was really bad.
Probably the last city you want to do that in.
I know. Yeah, really not great performance there. But yeah, he's a free agent, so I don't imagine he'll be re-signing with the Phillies.
Not welcome back.
No.
And I just want to touch on Pavetta real quick because he's a guy who's interesting. I know, at least as a fantasy baseball player, for like 2 or 3 seasons, it was like, oh, this is the year that Nick Pavetta makes the leap, right?
Right.
This is the year Pavetta becomes like a top 30 pitcher. And, at this point, it feels like he's like post hype. Do you hold out hope for him being much of a useful option as the fifth starter?
I do, for 2 reasons. One of them is a bad reason, and the other I think is a decent one. The bad reason is he pitched really well in those last 2 starts with the Sox at the end of the year. Yeah. So when they traded for him, they didn't send him right to the majors. They had him down at the alternate site, and they were, working on things. Mm-hmm. At the time, I'll be honest, man, I knew what those things were, or what they reported to be. Now I don't know what those things were, but they were things, and they were worked on. And then he came up and he looked really good. I think he pitched against the Yankees, and I forget who the other team was. Might have been the Orioles. It was a good team and a bad team, and he pitched pretty well. But in both games, didn't go like super deep, like 5 or 6 innings each, something like that. Right. But fifth starter, that's fine. That's great. So there's that. So I saw him have success and look good in 2 starts. So that's one. The other one is that, the Red Sox front office, which I consider to be a relatively smart front office, likes him, specifically attempted to trade for him, worked with him and has him in the major league rotation. So that's a vote of confidence. It doesn't always mean, that he'll be good. Right. But yeah, I'm kind of eager to see, because I know he's, stuff has never been the issue with him. Like it's, so I think there's a chance that, that the Red Sox can quote unquote unlock him. There's also a chance that he'll just remain locked.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's been one of those guys. Like I said, it seems like for years people were just waiting on him to kind of take, that big step forward, and he never really did. And now it's just kind of like, maybe he'll be a major league player in a year or two, or maybe he won't be.
I thought it was a really interesting get. I mean, I think the guy that they really wanted in that deal was Seabold, who's a legitimate starting pitching prospect. Probably not, top of the rotation kind of dude, but hopefully mid rotation, a 3 or 4 type. But if you can get something out of Pavetta also, that's fantastic. And obviously there's something to get, and whether or not Pavetta and the Red Sox can work towards accomplishing that together, we'll have to wait and see. But there's definitely something there.
Cool. And so, like, I guess just to kind of like sum it up, before I do want to ask a little about your out of the park career.
Oh, okay.
I mean, what do you see this team as? Are they fighting for a wild card spot? Are they making a run at the division? Are they making a run at 500? What do you expect from them this year?
I think if you had to pin me down, I think it'd probably be.
I am.
Okay. All right. I feel pinned now. Ow. Probably mid to upper 80s in terms of wins, 85, okay. 86 wins. So, but those things are always kind of, that's the team they have now. Like, there could be injuries, and they could make a trade in the middle of the year to get a good player. Or they could take the best player they have and trade him to the Dodgers. You never know. You just don't know. But yeah, I think the hope would be that they'd compete for a wild card.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you want to talk about Mookie for a minute, or you want me to ask you about it?
I don't care. I truly don't care. If you want to talk about Mookie, we can do it.
I mean, we can touch on it briefly. I'm sure it's been said by everybody in the year since it's happened, or whatever it's been. It's just, I was saying to you before we started, like, somebody, when the Lindor trade happened, put on Twitter basically, if you're going to own a baseball team and you don't want to find a way to keep Francisco Lindor, what's the point of owning a baseball team? And with a guy like Mookie Betts, I'd say that's even more true. And with a budget like the Red Sox versus Cleveland, that's even more true, right? Like, it's just, man, like, ride it out and give them your best offer. Like,
that's how I felt. That's how I felt. It was and remains incredibly painful in a way that probably is childish, as an adult who has probably lived at least half of my time on this earth, of the total allotted time that I will get is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Not that I've spent half my time in space. I realize that came out weird.
No, I got you. I'm with you.
Okay, good. Now I lost my train of thought because I was thinking about outer space.
So as an adult,
the whole thing is just it's just very difficult to fathom why the priorities were so out of whack. Like, I think we said this right before we started. Or I said this to you, but it's just like the kind of, like, that's the guy you build the team around, not the other way around, right? Like, okay, yeah, you gave Eovaldi this contract, but why? Why did you do that when you knew that you had Mookie coming up? Like, it wasn't, there are websites that show you how much time Mookie has left until he becomes a free agent, Or if you actually work for the team, you could call up his agent and ask him, hey, I just read on a website you got 2 years left before you become a free agent. Do you want to talk about a contract extension? So, I still can't believe they did that. And there was an interview that Mookie gave to David Ortiz, who was working for MLB Network.
Okay.
And, I think shortly after that trade, and I guess it was like after a game or something. Mookie probably did something amazing and then was being interviewed. And Ortiz said to him, I thought you would always, he said it looks weird for you to be wearing that uniform. And Mookie said, yeah, it feels weird. I always thought I would be a Red Sox forever.
Yeah.
So then what I did is I crawled behind this couch over here and I started crying. So,
I mean,
yeah,
I can relate in a way. They're not completely parallel, but in the fact that the Orioles didn't find a way in the 7 years they had Manny Machado to keep him long term. It's a little different in that Boston, given their track record in spending and the market and the budget, like you don't expect them to let a generational player not walk, but to trade away a generational player. Where with the Orioles, by the time Machado was like into his second arbitration year, I was like, yeah, he's gone. He's gone.
Yeah.
The time that the Orioles should have done that was after Machado's second knee surgery, when he was still like 3+ years from free agency. And apparently that offseason, Machado's side of the story is they talked about a long-term extension that offseason. He thought a long-term offer was coming, and the topic was never brought up again. An offer was never made. Yeah.
These things are always so hard to piece together, even after the fact too. Like, the stories of the Red Sox, offering Mookie this and Mookie turning it down, and then it gets reported that happened, and then Red Sox fans are like, Mookie didn't want to be in Boston. Well, actually, dude, that's how negotiations work. Like you give me a number and I give you a number, and then you move and then I move, and here we are together, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's frustrating. And that is sort of the weird thing about, where we are now in baseball. Like there should be these guys, Lindor, Machado, Betts, these guys should be, ideally with that team. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like players haven't earned free agency and haven't earned the ability to go somewhere else if they want to. Like if you don't want to spend your whole career in Boston, I get it. Maybe you'd rather be in Los Angeles. I understand. It's it's warmer. Other things probably. So I don't want to take away that, that agency, but at the same time, like it feels like, Mookie was happy in Boston, and if the Red Sox had been able to make an offer that he thought was fair, then he would still be there. But it feels like they didn't try. I guess that's maybe where a lot of the frustration comes in. Like they didn't try to keep him. Like he's a generational player, as you correctly said, and that requires maybe more than a phone call, maybe more than one. Like, oh, you don't like that offer? Okay, you're out of here. We're sending you out. No, that's not how we do things. Like this is an 8-win outfielder who's like, amazing in the community, and there's like literally nothing that he does bad or wrong. Let's put some effort into this one, guys. What do you think?
Right. No, I'm with you. Yeah. If any of these players want to go play somewhere else, they definitely should. But it feels like with Mookie and with Manny, and I don't know as much about the Lindor situation, not so much that the player didn't want to stay there, but that the billionaire owner or owners didn't want to pay them fair market value, basically.
Yeah, exactly. You're right.
That's frustrating.
Right.
Yeah.
It is, especially if you're a fan of that team, Yeah. And the other thing is, like, these players are good long-term, usually. Like these, extremely good players have pretty good track records of being good into their 30s. So, okay, like we're going to get rid of Machado because we're going to tear down, and we don't want to pay him $30 million for the next 2 years when we're going to be terrible. Okay, well, how about this then? Don't be terrible. You've got Manny Machado, right? That's a good start to a good team.
Right.
Pay that dude some money and win some ball games.
Right. Yep.
Anyway.
So before I let you go, let's, and I don't know if anybody will have out of the park questions for you, but I sure do.
Okay.
Because basically
for you, you're the expert. I'm not.
No, I mean, no. My recollection of your out of the park journey is that we exchanged messages, and you were basically. I think you started playing, and you just asked me some questions.
Yeah.
And then basically over the next month was you sending me screenshots of all your World Series championships.
I did. I won 3 in a row with the Red Sox, and then I won. I forget. It's been a couple months since I messed with it, I think. But yeah, I won 2 with the Orioles, I think, and I went to a couple more and lost. And then I just threw a huge hissy fit when I lost. Oh man. Go outside, stomp around on the porch.
Well, I mean, I think you're the expert because I am in 2032 now with the Orioles and still have not won a World Series. So,
the funny thing about out of the park is, it started to feel a little formulaic to me, and maybe that's because like I got lucky and won. But like you just like in real life, there's no way to go, okay, where are the best players and how can I trade for them right now? Like that's how I approached out of the park. Right. Like I had the Orioles and it starts in 2020 and Mookie Betts is a free agent. So I was like, I'm signing Mookie Betts. So I signed Mookie Betts. And Mookie Betts is fantastic, and he's my right fielder. And the other thing that I noticed is, and I think you hit on this in one of your videos, that the Rule 5 draft. Yeah, there's like a lot of talent in the Rule 5 draft. It's almost like an actual draft.
The trades, the Rule 5, and waivers. And I put out a video at one point, but I think that where I mentioned Rule 5 is like how to make the game harder. Because like any video game or computer game, like if you play it enough, like you'll figure out a way to game the system, game the AI.
Right.
I put a bunch of little like rules in place for myself to kind of keep it.
Yeah. And I did not have those rules. I did not follow those rules. Yeah. If I could sneak into a little crack in the game and pull it apart, I did that. So I was plucking off like top 10 prospects in the Rule 5 and top 40 prospects off of waivers. Trading any decent reliever I had for a bunch of prospects. I mean, that's one thing that I found is it's not hard at all to maintain a top, even if you're winning, it's not hard to maintain a top farm system.
I agree with that.
And I think the one thing that I did is I just tried to load the hell up on starting pitchers. Like I think all of my first round picks were starters.
Interesting.
Unless there was like some guy who was like way, way better than it. But I just tried to absolutely have ridiculous depth with starters.
Sure.
So that I always had like 2 or 3 guys that I could pull up into the rotation or trade for, some star left fielder at the deadline, whatever. Like when you traded for Dylan Carlson, I did a little dance in my living room. I was like, yeah, Pat, get him. Because that's the kind of deal that you weren't doing. Like you were like, I'm not going to do that because that's like cheating. And then you're like, screw this, I'm getting Dylan Carlson. And I was like, do it.
I brought in some stars, but I could definitely go out every offseason and make probably 4 or 5 more trades than I do.
Yeah. I mean, I think you should do that just to prove that you can win the World Series.
Well,
do it.
In a way, my brother and I are testing that right now in that we just did our 3rd stream, I think with it last night or the night before, where we're taking the Angels.
Mike Trout. Yeah, I haven't watched that yet. I'm gonna like binge it, but I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah. They're things are going pretty well. We made a bunch of trades, and we've got Trevor Bauer and Chris Archer in our rotation, and
is Chris Archer good?
He's decent. He's pretty decent.
Trout screen. There you go.
Yeah, we've got Giancarlo Stanton in our outfield.
Wow, right.
So we're and Mike Trout's on pace. Like 1/3 of the way into the season, he's on pace for like 90 home runs or something. But,
I mean, that's crazy, but it's also not that crazy.
No, I mean, he could definitely have a 54-game stretch where he hits 30 home runs easily.
Yeah, absolutely.
Within the realm of possibility for him.
Yeah. Totally.
We've had like a 90th percentile outcome for Trout so far in our sim. So hopefully we can bring him to glory.
That's one of the things I hope so. And I look forward to watching. That's one of the things that I kind of like about it too, is that like good players typically stay good.
Yeah.
You know, there's some fluctuation, but like I played up through, I don't know, 2028, I think is as far as I got.
Okay.
And Mookie Betts is still, you know, all-star every year or whatever. So I was thinking that at a certain point, I wonder if it gets, and you can probably speak to this, I wonder if it gets really hard because at some point, all of the real people disappear and it's all computer people.
Yeah.
Right. So like, you're probably at that point, to like 2032 or whatever. There's probably not like a whole lot of guys left that are actual human beings.
Yeah, no, I mean, Mike Trout's playing and he's 40.
Right.
Juan Soto's like 33. I think Wander Franco's like early 30s. But yeah, it's
not that bad, I guess. Soto,
it's almost like like 80% fictional league at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So in Drew's sim, he signed with the Mariners. Wow, Mariners dropping some cash.
That is funny too, because I think in one of my sims he signed with the Nationals.
That's who he signed with in mine. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But I've tried to. I've only done like 3. I did the Mariners once, and I was like I had built up a really good team, and then my computer crashed and it didn't save anything.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, and so I threw a fit about that too. And then I started over. I think that's when I started the Orioles sim.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I signed him in that sim because he's really good.
How'd you manage to do that the first year in with like Davis and Cobb still on the budget? What'd you do?
I traded them all.
But
I did everything. I think I just did everything I could to get money off the books as much as possible. And I did that thing that I think you talked about in your video. I think I discovered it independently, but maybe not. Maybe I copied it from you, where you're like you find a deal that works. Like,
right.
So like, all right, who will take Chris Davis if if I pay 95% of the money, right? Oh, okay, one team. All right, boom. Now, how about 90%? Oh, right. I got to give you this prospect. Okay, here you go. How about 85%? And you just turn that crank really, really slowly, and try to do everything you can until you get it down to 25% or 40% or whatever the best you can, and then out the door you go, along with every prospect I have. But at that point, you're not trying to win anyway, so who cares?
Sure.
Get it off the books.
Hey, if it gets you Mookie, it's worth it.
I know, right? Yeah, totally.
Cool, man.
Before we go, can I ask you a Caps question?
Yeah. Oh, we want to transition to hockey. Let's do it.
Well, I just because you know a lot more about hockey than I do, and I think the Caps. I'm afraid that the Caps are just too old and too slow. And I watched yesterday's game where they came back and won at the last second there, and that was a lot of fun. And I sort of was like, I actually listened to the goal on the radio. I was walking to pick up some food, and I was on the sidewalk, and I was like listening like that, on the sidewalk in the middle of Portland, Oregon. No one knows what the hell this crazy guy's doing, but it just felt like this little moment where of happiness in potentially this season of, I don't know. It just feels like maybe this is like the hill has just gotten a little steeper than before.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would share the same concerns as you of like age and speed being issues, but it's like, it's just when is that other shoe going to drop? Because really, like Ovechkin should have trailed off like 3 or 4 years ago, right? Like started to decline and
except for the fact that he's like the greatest scorer ever.
Yeah, so it's like they've extended the window further than I would have bet 6 years ago that they would have.
Right.
But so that drop off is coming. that just being a borderline playoff team is coming.
Yeah. Do you think there's anything they can do? Do you think there's anything they can do to avoid that
this season?
In general, I mean, like maybe after the year, make a whole bunch of trades or something. I don't know.
No, I mean, I think they could stay relevant if they bring in speed, right? Like, and they've got some, like, they've got guys like Vrana and, some good deep defensive prospects, but yeah. I don't know, that pipeline is kind of bare. I feel like,
they've got
the next 3 to 5 years is going to take them as far as like Backstrom, Ovechkin, and Kuznetsov and Ken, right? Wilson and Vrana figure are going to be solid pieces, but those other guys, Kuznetsov, you never know what you're going to get, and then Backstrom and Ovechkin's like, okay, how much more is left in that tank?
Yeah, totally. Are you? Are you of the opinion that McMichaels can step in soon and be one of the top 2 centers on the team?
I don't know. I mean, to be honest, like I don't follow prospects as much in hockey as like in baseball and stuff.
Yeah, no, I don't either. And everything I've read about him sounds fantastic, but but I haven't read that much, and I don't know that much anyway. So
being a top 6 center in the NHL is really hard. Like most guys aren't going to reach that.
Yeah, right.
So I'd always bet against it, but it seems like he's kind of overachieved since they drafted him.
Yeah,
and improved his stock, which is always a great thing. And this is my brother, Mike's, and people seem to be certain that it's going to be Oshie who they lose in the expansion draft. I'm not as certain about that.
Why would they? I mean, I get the money part, but he's also like one of the better players on the team.
Yeah, I think it's a money and age thing.
Yeah. Okay. So if you could get rid of Oshie, just make him disappear after the season, would you do that?
I don't know. Ask me in like 2 months.
Okay. 2 months.
He's a really hard guy to replace.
Yeah.
But
and he's been really healthy too. Like,
it's kind of this thing of, if you get rid of him, you freed up like $5.5 million in cap space, but you have to replace him. If you keep him, you don't have that $5.5 million cap space, and you're betting that he's going to continue to be himself, which might not be the best bet. So tough call. Yeah,
that's true. That is a tough bet.
So would you rather have no Oshie and the $5.5 million in cap space, or would you rather have possibly a shell of Oshie and don't have cap space? But so he's aged better than I thought he would. So
yeah, me too. Yeah, I didn't really love the deal when it happened, but he's been I think particularly good. Yeah, there is that's an interesting way to frame it. So like, could you get someone as good as Oshie who's younger for that money? I mean, I feel like maybe that would be difficult. Or maybe not.
You could get an effective top 6 player for that money for sure.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, maybe that's the smart way to do it then.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's replaceable for that money, then yeah, you get younger and faster potentially.
So I feel like Drew just dropped an out of the park bomb on us here. How should any team, let alone the Mariners, sign Nolan Arenado and Mookie Betts in the same offseason? That's got to be $80+ million. I know Betts in my sim signed for an average annual value of $49 million with the Nationals. Yeah.
So when I signed him for the Orioles, I didn't pay nearly that much. Like part of the reason I'll be honest, part of the reason I signed him was because like his market just didn't really develop. Like in the beginning of the offseason, like I checked in with him to see how much it was, and he was asking like whatever, it's $50 million a year. And I was like, all right, I obviously can't do that. And I think I made an offer to him later on, and he was like, no. And then, time went on, and then he came back to me and was like, hey, you want to revisit that offer? And I was like, sure. Yeah. You want to sign for whatever it was, $32 million a year or something? I don't know. Yeah.
Right. So the payroll is only $99 million with those 2 guys.
I mean, if you have an amazing farm system, you can make that work for a little while.
Yeah.
I think that's one of those situations where you kind of hope the payroll's going up, because if it doesn't, then you're going to have to trade somebody. Yeah, there you go. So nobody else.
Interesting.
And if it was the real Mariners, they probably would trade all of them anyway.
Oh, they'd trade everybody 7 times. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Trader Jerry.
Trader Jerry.
Cool, man. Well, yeah. Well, thanks for doing this. Thanks for taking the time.
Nice to talk to you.
If anybody wasn't on at the beginning, in the description of the video, there's a link to Sox Outsiders where Matt writes all about the Red Sox, and you can get it delivered to your email. So
yes, it goes right in your inbox. It's soxoutsider.substack.com. Just go right there. It's all right there. It's free for now. Free.
Oh, are you gonna charge me? One day I'm gonna show up and have to pay $500 or something.
There's always going to be some part of it that's free. Ideally I could make a living off this, but that's way down the way. I think right now I'm just trying to get it in front of people and remember how to write again and enjoy myself and all those things. So hopefully,
I say that encouraging you to charge money if you can. It's your time.
Oh, sure. Yeah. But I think for now I'm quite happy with it being free and people reading it and enjoying it and share it with their friends and
cool.
All that stuff. So yeah, check it out. It's hopefully not awful.
No, it's great. I appreciate that you're someone who your personality comes through in your writing.
Oh, that's good.
So it has like a sense of humor to it, and I appreciate that about it.
I try to do that. I was talking with a buddy the other day about this, and it's hard to make jokes in writing because you don't know if those jokes work at all. Like I can say something to you that I think, oh, this could be clever or funny, and then I say it, and you look at me like I've got 4 heads, and then I'm like, oh, that joke did not work at all. That's fine. But once you write something and send it into other people's inboxes, there's no taking it back. So, oh well. But I'm glad that you said that. That's nice of you, and I appreciate it.
Yeah. So sign up for Matt's newsletter so he can tell you jokes that he can't take back.
That's right.
Cool. All right, we're gonna end the broadcast here. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll I don't know. See you next time or whenever. I don't know. Yeah. All right. That's the end though. That's a real smooth ending. I'll work on it.
You're a pro, man.